It was a cold, moonless night when Anna found herself alone in her grandmother's old house. She had volunteered to pack up her late grandmother's belongings, a task her family had avoided for months. The house, located on the outskirts of town, had always given Anna the creeps, but she brushed off her unease as childish superstition. The house was a two-story relic from the early 1900s, with creaky wooden floors and rooms filled with antique furniture. Shadows seemed to cling to the corners, and the air was thick with the scent of aged wood and dust. Anna had arrived in the late afternoon, but as the hours ticked by, she realized she would have to spend the night. She lit a few candles to supplement the dim, flickering lights and continued sorting through boxes in the living room. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the windows and sending a chill down her spine. She put on a record from her grandmother's collection, hoping the music would ease her nerves. The haunting melody of an old piano filled the room, but instead of calming her, it seemed to amplify the eerie atmosphere. As she worked, Anna began to hear faint whispers. At first, she thought it was her imagination or the wind playing tricks on her. But the whispers grew more persistent, almost as if they were calling her name. She paused, straining to listen, but the sound would stop whenever she tried to pinpoint its source. A sense of unease settled over her, but she shook it off, determined to finish her task. She moved to the second floor, where her grandmother's bedroom was located. The room was exactly as she remembered it, a large four-poster bed, a vanity with an ornate mirror, and shelves lined with old books and trinkets. The whispers followed her up the stairs, growing louder and more insistent. As she sorted through a box of old photographs, she came across a picture she had never seen before. It was a black-and-white photo of a young woman who looked strikingly like her grandmother, but there was something off about her eyes. They seemed too intense, almost alive. Anna's heart skipped a beat as she realized the woman in the photo was staring directly at her. The whispers intensified, filling the room with an otherworldly chorus. Anna felt a cold breeze sweep through the room, extinguishing the candles and plunging her into darkness. She fumbled for her flashlight, her hands shaking. When she finally managed to turn it on, the beam of light revealed something that made her blood run cold. In the reflection of the vanity mirror, she saw the figure of a woman standing behind her. The woman from the photograph. Her eyes were hollow, and her mouth moved as if she were whispering. Anna spun around, but the room was empty. The whispers continued, now accompanied by a low, mournful wail. Panic set in. She grabbed her phone and tried to call for help, but there was no signal. She ran to the door, only to find it locked from the outside. Desperation clawed at her as she pounded on the door, screaming for someone to hear her. But the only response was the relentless whispers and the growing sense of dread. She retreated to the corner of the room, clutching her flashlight like a lifeline. The whispers seemed to surround her, closing in from all sides. She could feel a cold presence, as if someone, or something, was watching her. Her flashlight flickered, casting long, sinister shadows on the walls. Then, out of the darkness, a figure emerged. The woman from the photograph, her eyes glowing with an eerie light. She moved closer, her whispers now clear and distinct. "Leave this place," she said, her voice a chilling echo. "You do not belong here." Anna's heart raced as she tried to back away, but there was nowhere to go. The woman reached out, her cold hand brushing against Anna's cheek. A surge of fear and sorrow washed over her, and she felt herself slipping into darkness. When she woke up, it was morning. Sunlight streamed through the windows, dispelling the night's terror. The whispers were gone, and the house was silent. Shaken but determined, Anna gathered her things and left the house, vowing never to return. She never spoke of what happened that night, but the memory haunted her. The photograph of the woman vanished without a trace, and the whispers never left her mind. To this day, she can still hear them in the dead of night, a reminder of the presence that lurks in the shadows, waiting for those who dare to enter the old house alone. The office was eerily quiet, save for the rhythmic hum of the air conditioning. Jane glanced at the clock. It was almost midnight. She was the only one left, burning the midnight oil to finish a project that was due the next day. Her co-workers had all left hours ago, leaving her alone in the vast, dimly lit space. Jane's eyes felt heavy, and her fingers ached from typing. She stood up to stretch, listening to the creaks of the old building. It was an open-plan office, with cubicles lined up neatly in rows. The darkness beyond her desk was unsettling, and the flickering of the fluorescent lights didn't help. As she walked to the break room to grab a cup of coffee, she heard a faint sound. It was like a whisper, soft and unintelligible. She froze, straining her ears to catch it again, but there was only silence. Shrugging it off as her tired mind playing tricks on her, she continued to the break room. The coffee machine gurgled, filling the room with the rich aroma of brewing coffee. Jane leaned against the counter, her eyes wandering to the window. Outside, the city was a sea of twinkling lights, a stark contrast to the oppressive stillness inside the office. Returning to her desk, she noticed something strange. Her computer screen had gone black, and the chair seemed to have moved slightly. She was sure she had left the screen on. With a sigh, she jiggled the mouse to wake the computer up. As the screen flickered to life, she saw something that made her blood run cold. There was a message on the screen, typed out in large, bold letters, "Get out." Jane's heart pounded. She looked around the office, her eyes darting to every shadow, every corner. The whispering started again, louder this time, and distinctly menacing. Panic surged through her. She grabbed her bag and headed for the door, her footsteps echoing in the empty office. As she reached the elevator, the lights began to flicker more violently. The whispering grew louder, almost a chant now. Jane punched the elevator button frantically, praying for the doors to open. When they finally did, she practically leaped inside and hit the ground floor button repeatedly. The elevator descended slowly, each floor passing with agonizing slowness. The whispering didn't stop, it seemed to follow her, growing in intensity. When the doors finally opened to the lobby, she bolted out, not looking back. Outside, the night air was cool and refreshing, but Jane's heart was still racing. She glanced back at the building, expecting to see something, someone, in the windows. But there was nothing. She never worked late again. And she never told anyone about that night, fearing they'd think she was crazy. But she knew what she had heard, what she had seen. The whispers still haunted her dreams, a chilling reminder that some things are best left undisturbed in the silence of the night.